Hello guys, this is Real Recaps. In this video, I will talk about a 2022 erotic psychological thriller film, Deep Water. Before we start, I hope you will like and subscribe to the channel. Vic Van Allen and Melinda had a seemingly joyful family life, along with their daughter, Trixie. One evening, while preparing to attend a party, Melinda was anxious about selecting a dress and sought Vic's opinion. Vic chose an outfit for her and assisted her in getting ready. She then put on a pair of new shoes, which were a gift from New York. Once ready, they happily drove to the party together. Upon arriving at the venue, Vic courteously helped Melinda take off her jacket. Melinda then grabbed a drink, and the couple joined the group of guests. While socializing, they engaged in a conversation about the significance of moral education for children. However, Melinda seemed distracted, as her attention was drawn to her close friend, Joel. Vic was also aware of Joel's presence, though Melinda felt particularly delighted by the company of their acquaintances. At one point, Vic took a drink from the refreshment area and wandered around in search of his wife. Meanwhile, Melinda had discreetly led Joel outside to the courtyard, where music played through the open windows. From inside, Vic observed his wife passionately kissing Joel. Melinda seemed to realize that Vic was watching, yet she continued caressing Joel without hesitation. Shortly after, a woman approached Vic and commented on what Melinda and Joel were doing by the pool. While she disapproved of the affair, Vic remained indifferent and chose not to respond. As the night progressed, Melinda, having consumed too much alcohol, climbed onto the piano and danced. When Vic approached, she put on a performance for him and the other guests. Later in the evening, Vic encountered Joel, who expressed gratitude for Vic's generosity in allowing him to be close to Melinda. In response, Vic brought up a man named Marty, who had previously been friends with Melinda. Joel, having heard the name before, grew curious but remained uncertain about Vic's involvement in Marty's sudden disappearance. However, Vic openly admitted that he had killed Marty, leaving Joel perplexed. Overwhelmed by the confession, Joel left the party while it was still ongoing. Once the event concluded, Melinda questioned Vic about his conversation with Joel. Vic, unwilling to discuss the matter, urged her to get in the car. During the ride home, Melinda found a half-eaten apple in a box and handed it to Vic. When they arrived home, Vic paid the babysitter while Melinda, seemingly intoxicated, entered the kitchen and began undressing. This made both the babysitter and Vic feel uncomfortable. After escorting the babysitter out, Vic helped his wife finish undressing, and they engaged in a conversation about their marriage. Melinda admitted that, despite Joel's lack of intelligence, he made her feel alive. She then requested that Vic close the door behind him. The following morning, Vic spoke with Trixie, who was working on a science experiment for school. He briefly drove her to school before returning home, only to be confronted by Melinda, who was furious over how he had treated Joel. She insisted that Vic should apologize. That evening, Joel visited their house for dinner. Before the meal, he informed Melinda that he was allergic to seafood, so Vic prepared a special dish for him. After dinner, Joel revealed that he would soon be leaving town for work. Melinda, thrilled by the news, promised to visit him. As they talked, Vic reminisced about their first date, but the conversation soon escalated into an argument. Later, Melinda requested that Vic read a bedtime story to Trixie. While reading to his daughter, Vic remained preoccupied. When he came downstairs, he noticed Melinda enjoying herself with Joel. To gain her attention, he deliberately dropped a plate, causing her to come into the kitchen to inspect the broken dish. Shortly after, she poured herself a glass of alcohol and instructed Vic to bring a drink to Joel. Moments later, Vic forcibly urged Joel to leave. During a holiday party, the couple encountered a writer named Don Wilson and his family. Don criticized Vic, arguing that the military chip business he was involved in was unethical and resulted in deaths. However, Vic's friends dismissed Don's concerns and laughed at him. Meanwhile, Melinda and Trixie joyfully danced together while Vic watched from a distance. At one point, Don's wife, Kelly, approached Vic and complimented his wife's cheerful nature. Surprisingly, Vic decided to dance with Kelly, an action that shocked his friends, as he usually avoided such activities. On the way home, Melinda questioned Vic about his dance with Kelly, suspecting that he had feelings for her. Fueled by jealousy, Melinda initiated a passionate encounter with Vic in the car, much to his pleasure. That night, they shared an intimate moment at home. A few days later, the couple attended Trixie's soccer game. During the match, Vic received a call from a bank officer who informed him that Melinda had requested to transfer $3,000 for piano lessons to someone named Charlie. Curious about his wife's new acquaintance, Vic decided to investigate. He went to a bar where Charlie played the piano and noticed that Melinda had arrived before him. Seeing this, Vic grew frustrated and went home. Later that night, Melinda returned in a disheveled state. When Vic asked where she had been, she vaguely mentioned meeting new friends and drinking excessively. Vic helped her undress and then casually mentioned the recent death of her former lover, Marty. The news left Melinda visibly shaken. The next day, Vic and Trixie adopted a puppy from the shelter, and Trixie named him Roger. While driving home, Vic spotted Charlie carrying a bouquet of tulips, the same flowers he later found placed on their kitchen table. The following evening, Vic met a friend at the bar where Charlie played and revealed that Charlie had been giving Melinda piano lessons. That night, while Vic tended to his snails, Melinda relaxed in the car with Charlie, seeking thrills and pushing physical boundaries. She did not return home until morning, leading to an argument between her and Vic. Melinda deliberately provoked him, hoping to evoke jealousy or strong emotions, but Vic remained as composed as ever. He attempted to forbid her from seeing Charlie, yet she dismissed his warnings. During a party hosted at their home, Charlie unexpectedly arrived. Melinda introduced him to the guests, and he proceeded to play the piano. As he performed, Melinda subtly flirted with Vic, trying to entice him. A short while later, she officially introduced Charlie to Vic. Upon seeing Vic, Charlie felt a sense of familiarity, but Vic denied knowing him. As the party wound down, Vic noticed Melinda's absence. A friend casually mentioned that she had gone upstairs. Irritated, Vic slowly ascended to the second floor, where he spotted Melinda emerging from a room in a swimsuit, laughing, followed closely by Charlie. Melinda and Charlie made their way to the pool, with Vic trailing behind them. He observed as his wife enjoyed herself in the water with her new companion. Suddenly, a heavy downpour began, causing everyone to rush indoors, everyone except Vic and Charlie. Upstairs, Dawn caught sight of them before entering the house. Meanwhile, Melinda grew uneasy when she noticed Charlie was no longer among the guests. She looked outside and saw his lifeless body floating in the pool. Several people quickly pulled him out and attempted to revive him before the ambulance arrived, but it was too late. Seeing this, Melinda became frantic. Soon, the police arrived to investigate the situation and began questioning the party guests. Melinda informed the detective that it was her husband who had killed Charlie, leaving her friends stunned by her accusation. The police then took Melinda aside for a private conversation before calling Vic in for his statement. On the silent drive home, neither of them spoke a word. Melinda was deeply distressed over her friend's death. Once they arrived home, Vic asked his wife if she was afraid of him, to which she responded that she wasn't, because she believed Vic had done it for her. The following day, Vic went for a bike ride, and his mind replayed the fight between him and Charlie at the pool, along with everything that had happened between Charlie and Melinda. The memories weighed heavily on him. While riding, he noticed a car trailing him. Later, when dropping his daughter off at school, he encountered Dawn's wife, Kelly. She disclosed that her husband had been spreading rumors that Vic was responsible for Charlie's death. She also admitted that she no longer wanted to invite Melinda to social gatherings because of her unpredictable behavior. Vic reassured her and extended an invitation for Kelly and Dawn to join them for dinner. That evening, Kelly and Dawn arrived at Vic's home, and Melinda appeared delighted by their visit. Vic took Dawn to see his snail farm before urging him to stop spreading talk about Charlie's death, as such gossip could ruin a writer's reputation. Dawn was surprised that Vic seemed more concerned about others' reputations rather than his own. He then asked Vic if he would be willing to take a lie detector test to prove his innocence, to which Vic confidently agreed. The next day, Vic once again noticed the same car following him. Upon inspection, he found the vehicle empty but spotted a camera inside. At a nearby cafe, he saw his wife sitting with an unfamiliar man. He approached them, and Melinda, appearing caught off guard, reluctantly introduced the stranger as a psychologist. However, after conversing with him, Vic became convinced that the man was actually a private investigator. Determined to uncover the truth, Vic confronted Dawn about hiring a detective, but Kelly was furious over her husband's actions. Dawn defended himself, insisting he had nothing to do with it, but Vic had evidence proving otherwise. Later that afternoon, Vic discreetly followed Melinda and saw her meeting yet another man. They drove off together for an evening stroll. The following night, when the phone rang, Melinda answered and discussed a trip to Brazil. Shortly after, while she was in the bathtub, Vic attempted to speak with her, but she ignored him. Vic later invited Melinda's new friend, Tony, over to their home. Tony admired Vic's snail collection, and they later moved to the kitchen to chat. As they talked, Melinda entered the room and provocatively revealed that Tony had been her first boyfriend after moving to America. Tony was visibly embarrassed by Melinda's revelation in front of Vic. Trying to ease the tension, Tony changed the subject and suggested adding snails to their meal, but Vic sternly refused without explanation. Melinda then playfully challenged Vic by asking him to pick up a snail, to which he responded that eating an entire snail could lead to poisoning. After dinner, Melinda took Tony upstairs, with Vic following behind. From the staircase, Vic observed his wife flirting with her guest. The next day, Vic encountered Tony on the street. Vic mentioned that Melinda wanted to show him a building and offered him a ride. During the drive, they discussed Melinda, but Vic intentionally drove into a dense forest at high speed. Once out of the car, Vic began hurling rocks at Tony, causing him to tumble down a hill to his death. Vic then secured the body with a large rock and submerged it in a creek. Feeling relieved, Vic returned home to find Melinda playing with their daughter. Feigning innocence, he casually asked about Tony, pretending to like the man. During lunch, Melinda appeared uneasy and repeatedly tried to call her friend, but received no response. Later, she suggested they all go on a picnic, unknowingly choosing the very location where Tony had died. As they relaxed on the grass, Vic expressed his deep love for Melinda. Moved by his words, Melinda placed her hand over his. Vic then presented her with a book filled with pictures, which touched her deeply. Meanwhile, Trixie ran after their puppy near the water, prompting Vic to rush over just in time to prevent her from seeing Tony's body floating nearby. To avoid suspicion, he suggested they head home. On the way back, Melinda realized she had forgotten her scarf at the picnic spot. Vic assured her he would retrieve it the next day. That night, as he read a book on the couch, Melinda invited him to sleep in her room. They lay together in bed, and as she tenderly caressed his face, she professed her love for him. The couple then shared an intimate and passionate night. The next morning, Vic set out on his bike to retrieve the scarf. Meanwhile, Melinda wandered into Vic's snail room and curiously searched through the shelves. To her horror, she discovered Tony's wallet, leaving her shaken. At the picnic site, Vic once again attempted to conceal Tony's body in the water. However, he was unaware that Dawn had been observing him. Dawn confronted Vic, asking what he was doing at the river. Vic nonchalantly responded that he was searching for his wife's forgotten scarf. Dawn, holding up the red scarf, descended toward Vic. But upon noticing the body, Dawn panicked and rushed back to his car. Realizing his crime had been exposed, Vic frantically chased after Dawn on his bike. Meanwhile, at home, Melinda made the decision to leave Vic. She packed her belongings into a suitcase, but Trixie, witnessing this, shoved the suitcase down the stairs and tossed it into the pool, unwilling to part with her father. Due to Vic's pursuit, Dawn lost control of his vehicle and veered into the river. Upon returning home, Vic was met by his wife at the door. She informed him that she had found Tony's belongings but, instead of exposing him, chose to burn the evidence in order to preserve their family. The end. Thanks for watching.